Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Here's the headline from the Crypto Basic. Trump's Truth Social files for blue chip crypto ETF, including XRP. Yes, you heard right, folks. A company that the President of the United States owns is launching a multi-coin ETF, and it includes XRP. So once this thing gets approved, which as far as I'm concerned is a virtual inevitability, customers can buy one thing. They buy the ETF and they get exposure to XRP because the company here, Trump's company, will literally be purchasing XRP and the other coins, of course, that are in the fund. They'll literally be purchasing it to back it. So this will materially impact the supply and demand dynamics of XRP itself. If this isn't a vote of confidence, my God, then what the hell is it? And they're not the only ones that are doing this, which is exciting. And XRP is already incredibly scarce. I mean, think about how high XRP has already gone, an all-time high of $3.40 earlier this year, and that's with way less than 1% of humans having ever held any XRP in history. And that's all it took for it to get up that high. Just wait until even more money starts flowing in. And this is separate from another thing, which I think is about 100% chance coming, which is it's actually multiple spot XRP ETFs. Those are coming as well this year, perhaps before the bull runs over. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, let's dig into this piece. The block covered it as well. It reads as follows. Truth Social, the social media arm of Trump Media and Technology Group, has submitted an S-1 registration statement to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission for a crypto blue chip exchange traded fund. And that's a quote. Crypto blue chip is what it's being called. So they're throwing XRP in the category of the old school cryptos that obviously already made it. These are the safe bets. These are not the penny stocks, right? These are the blue chip ones that have already found success and are here. Like they're just here. They don't have to prove themselves. They're already just here. That's what that means when you say crypto blue chip. And I've been arguing for some time, we don't have to question if XRP is going to make it. It's already done. XRP already made it. The thing is done. It's just going to scale now. It's just going to do even more of what it's already doing. It already made it. Period. This is actually done, right? And so anyway, piece continues. If approved, the trust's assets will primarily consist of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and Kronos, the native cryptocurrency of the Kronos blockchain, which is closely associated with the Crypto.com ecosystem, according to the preliminary prospectus. And that one I'm not familiar with. I don't have an account with them, though. But that's that coin, I looked it up. It's number 34 in market cap. So if you're creating a crypto blue chip, that's the one in particular that stands out. And I'm like, not crapping on the coin, don't know anything about it. But if you're thinking blue chip, don't you think that you'd maybe keep it to the top 10? But hey, I'm sure they've got their own reasons. I'm not saying it doesn't necessarily make sense for what they're doing here. But it's just the naming of it made me think that. It really is just the name. Like, and they said crypto blue chip, if that's how you're categorizing, I was like, okay. Because everybody knows what blue chip means, obviously. Now, this is, I think, frustrated some people in the community, but not so much me. XRP has the smallest weighting out of all these coins. And I just think that's stupid, frankly, because XRP is just going to continually just substantially outperform from here. But here you can see this is weighted so that 70% of the funds go to Bitcoin, 15% to ETH, 8% to Solana, 15% to Kronos, and only 2% to XRP. Now, look, I can understand having Bitcoin and Ethereum weighted higher than XRP. That's actually normal, and that's fine, despite the fact that I personally believe that XRP is going to substantially outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum. It already is this market cycle. It's just going to be even more ridiculously, hilariously the case by the time the cycle's over. But still, I wouldn't blame any fund putting something together weighting Bitcoin and Ethereum higher because they have higher market caps. So When people look at the state of things, they just want exposure, and to do it ranked by market cap, it makes logical sense. I can get behind that. That's not a problem. But to have XRP just at 2%, I was like, But even so, just consider that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of coins that could have been thrown in here, and XRP is still on the list. So if you're a little perturbed that it's only 2%, I'm not going to look at it that way. I'm thrilled it's on the list. The way that XRP is viewed, I mean, night and day compared to a year ago, right? I mean, it's just treated dramatically different. So anyway, I just think it's a virtual certainty this thing's going to get approved. And the amount of money that's going to flow into XRP over a span of years and decades because of investment vehicles like this, there's no way to know what the number is, but it's going to be staggering. You'll look back 10 years, 20 years from now, and once we actually have the data, and if I'm still running this YouTube channel, you better believe I'm going to recall when we used to talk back in good old 2025, back before we had flying cars everywhere. I will recall this day and just remind you all that I told you it's going to be just a boatload of money that's flowing into XRP, and it is going to be truly substantial. XRP is going to be worth way more than it would otherwise be worth. And this is not the only fund, by the way. Here's another example. Here's a headline: SEC halts grayscale large cap fund conversion for review a day after staff approval. I know that headline sounds negative. This is from July 2nd. But Grayscale announced that they're seeking to convert anyway their large cap fund, which includes XRP. They're seeking to convert that to an ETF. And so they did move forward with that. The SEC acknowledged it and it was fine. Then the next day they put a halt on that, but that seems to be for procedural issues. And I've already talked about this, so I don't want to go in depth, but they halted it, and it seems like what's come out from the grapevine effectively is that the SEC wants to get some sort of structure in place for an approval process for stuff like this before they proceed. And so the theory is that's the reason that it was halted. Not that they don't want it to go through. Obviously, this is a pro-crypto administration, which also means that the SEC is now pro-crypto, including SEC Chair Paul Atkins. I'm so glad he's in charge and not Kim Jong-Ginsler. It's nice to be able to say that. SEC Chair Paul Atkins. SEC, any chair that's not Gary Gensler, very happy to be able to say that. So anyway, this thing's going to get approved at some point. More money flowing into XRP as a result, and that's on top of everything else here. And look at how quick funds can get eaten up. Just to give you an idea here. And this is why it's so substantial. This is a post from Nate Karachi, president of the ETF store. He said, new milestone. iShares Bitcoin ETF now holds over 700,000. 700,000. Did this in 18 months. Ridiculous. 700,000 Bitcoin. Out of a total max supply ever of 21 million, they now have 700,000, and that's in just 18 months. That's over 3% of total supply. It's just massive. That's the same type of thing that will happen for XRP when there are XRP ETFs. And again, mind you, this is just one ETF, and it's the biggest one. It's iShares. So that's BlackRock's, but same thing's going to happen with XRP. It's going to be massive. You just got to understand, there's not that much XRP out there. People hear the big number, 100 billion max supply ever. Oh, so that's too much. 100 billion, blah, 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 peas and carrots, peas and carrots. Yeah, well, shut the hell up. It's not that much. In fact, if you divvy up, if you were to, not that this is possible, but if you could equally distribute all XRP that ever could exist, like literally all of it, each human on the planet would only have it's either 11 or 12 XRP. That's the way the math works out. You can run the math yourself if you want to get the exact number, but it's like 11 or 12 XRP per person. That's it. So if you've got more than 11 or 12 per person, you've got more than your fair share. That's all it takes, folks. That's all it takes. It's pretty wild. And most people have no freaking clue. Most people have no idea that's the case. There's not that much XRP. So then when these funds open up and it's easier to invest and get exposure to XRP, what do you think happens? Oh, it's just going to be wild. And by the way, I want to share this with you too, because there's some serious long-term holders out here who, and this just give you optimism, frankly, that we are about to see just a massive blow off top for this market cycle to cap things off. This is a post from chart analyst Credible Crypto, and this is the Bitcoin long-term holder supply chart. So the black line is the price of Bitcoin, and the blue line on your screen is the long-term holder supply. All right. So check this out. Credible Crypto wrote, Over 80% of all the Bitcoin that will ever exist is currently being hodled. The only two times in Bitcoin's 15-year history that this percent was higher was at $43,000 before a $30,000 impulse to $73,000, and also at $58,000 before a $50,000 impulse to $105,000 plus. So this is easier to understand if you're looking at the screen, of course, but look at this. What you saw, and so this would have been at the end, looks like it was the end of 2023. And back then, people were even arguing that, they weren't even sure that, some people weren't even sure if, Bitcoin's going to hit a new all-time high here. But what happened? We hit this peak here where you had long-term holders at its highest in history, and that's still actually the highest in history. What happened, though? Well, when you have that many people, long-term holders at that type of people, which is why it's so worth looking at this metric, they're going to want to take profit at some point. And that's exactly what happened. So you can see that the black line went up as the blue line went down. That means the black line, the price of Bitcoin, went up. And as that was happening, these holders, the people that had been holding for a long time, meaning they bought at lower prices, the price got so high that they were like, okay, I got to sell. I got to take this profit. And so those long-term holders, it came down and down and down, going into the all-time high price for Bitcoin. That happened at the end of 2023 into 2024. That's just data. That is what happened. That's how humans behave, okay? Happened again here. You can see this. From when Bitcoin was $58,000, it ran to $106,000. So this is in the later stages of 2024. You can see as Bitcoin started rising, what happened? Long-term holders, which had built back up, sell, low into 2025. But what's been happening since then? Well, they bought more. They bought the dip. They bought all sorts. They've been buying consistently. Now you have long-term holders way up here again. Do you think they're going to get wrong-footed? Because I don't. What's going to happen is Bitcoin's going to freaking rampage, and XRP and everything else is going to follow, and you're going to have a ridiculous alt season. That's what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen. And this chart only goes back to the end of 2020, but you can see 2020 going into 2021, same story. As Bitcoin was rising, look what happened. The blue line went down. Long-term holders sold. Same story. It's tale as old as time, my friend. That's about to happen again. And so Credible Crypto wrote, when the majority of Bitcoin total circulating supply is cornered by diamond hands, price moves up aggressively at the hint of any new demand. Now that excess supply has found its way back in the hands of long-term holders, and with Bitcoin treasury companies leading the way, the next impulse is imminent. This next one will also likely be even bigger than the last two, $50,000 plus. Who's ready for $150,000 plus Bitcoin? Me. I am. I'm ready. Please get there. I sure as hell hope it gets up that high. And many think that it could get even higher. So we'll find out. I don't make price predictions. I don't know. But I do buy into the concept of it going way, way, way higher for one last parabolic surge. And then everything's ultimately going to fall apart. But not before alt season. Not before XRP hits a new all-time high, interest price discovery. And I won't be surprised if XRP hits double digits this market cycle. I won't be surprised in the least if that happens. The best is yet ahead. And it's a scarce asset, folks. And when demand increases that much, yeah, you can get crazy surges like that. There's just not that much XRP to go around. There really isn't. And so here you can see, now that it's a whole new world, XRP's got legal clarity. America is now pro-crypto. You've seen since November, since that dramatic change, the amount of money flowing into crypto has just ridiculously increased. And it's going to stay like this. Because most people, it's like you and I, yes, we beat the big institutions and companies and so on and so forth. We were here first, and good for us, genuinely. But for most people, they're not gonna beat the institutions and the companies. They just aren't. They just aren't. Most people are not in crypto. They're going to come in after, and that's fine. There'll still be opportunity. I'm just saying it's cool that we did beat them. We've had greater opportunity than them, and we get greater multiplier effect as a result. It's just the most crazy, insane financial opportunity, the craziest opportunity has ever been, frankly, in the history of our species to this point. Like, what a time to be alive, folks. And now you have a company that the President of the United States owns, which is supporting XRP. Yes, please, I'll take that. That is such a marked shift compared to what we've endured over most of the last half a decade. Yes, I will take that. Yes, please, sir. Can I have another? I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say, all right? That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.